Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to Grog and Prog. My name is Michelle, and I'm waiting for my co-host to join me on the call, and we also have a special guest on our podcast today. It's Mike Pinera, and I am going to go ahead and start bringing my co-host on, and then we'll bring Mike. So here is Rob.
Hello.
Hello, Rob. Hi. This is Michelle. We're just waiting for Steve, and Mike is on hold. So if we can just wait for just a minute, we'll have Steve with us, and we'll start the interview.
Yeah, he's asking for the Skype button to come on.
It's there. So if he can't find it, he'll need to call in.
Send him the link again.
I'm
not with it at all. Somehow I put like
Rob,
somehow I've got the fine run.
It's okay. We're being recorded now. So okay, Steve's going to call in now. So he'll be in just a few seconds, and then we can start the interview. I'm going to go ahead and bring Mike in while we're waiting for Steve. Hello, is this Mike?
Yes, it is. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Rob.
Hi. Great to meet you.
Same here. Hey, Rob, I like what you just said about Unmuted. That sounds like a good album cover, you know?
Yeah, that was...
Mike Pinera, Unmuted.
Yeah, good one.
That's a good one.
Excellent.
Well, thanks for calling in. Sorry about the mix-up yesterday. But we did talk a bit about Ride Captain Ride, and we played the song, and we were talking about it, but we're so glad that you were able to reschedule for today. And Steve was just calling in now, and once he gets here, we'll get things rolling. But I just want to say that that song, I know there's a lot more to you than just that song, but that song really had an impact on the show Lost that it played in, and I've actually heard it being played when I've been in restaurants. So there's a Bubba Gump chain of restaurants, and they actually played that song in there amongst their other songs that they have for the period type of music, and that's one of the songs they play.
Great. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. It was most recently played on a new TV series called Vinyl, produced by Mick Jagger and Martin Scorsese.
Yes, I heard that. That's great.
Yeah, it's really great that I play it live in concert, and it's great to see the younger audience singing right along with all the words.
Yes, it's a great song. It's definitely got a great message and a good beat to it, and it's just a really fun song, and it definitely, everything that was played in Lost had a significance to it, and so people are always going over the words to the song.
We were saying last night about the impact. That it had, even though it was on for only a couple of seconds. I watched the episode yesterday, rewatched it after years, and it's only actually on that scene for say about 30 seconds. But it's amazing the impact that it had to this day.
Do you guys get a television show there called Scorpion?
Yes, I have seen that show.
Oh, okay. It was on there, too, recently. And
okay.
They left it on for like 3 minutes.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm a little bit behind on that show. I watched it for the first few episodes, and there's just so much great TV to watch. It's just hard to watch them all.
That's true. Yeah.
But that's really great. I'm glad that that your music is getting a lot of current play, and I know Steve was mentioning to us yesterday that you also have some new music that's going to be possibly in the future.
Oh, yes. It's being released next month, and it's a new album called Next Voyage. And
Great.
Steve and Rob are some of the first persons who have heard it. I haven't released it yet to the public, but I did send them the album, and so they're among the first.
That's fantastic. That's really great. Well, we're looking forward to that. I'm sorry, we're still waiting for Steve. Let me see if he sent us another message here. I know he says he's going to dial in, so hopefully he'll be here any moment. Let's just let him know that we're waiting. And in any case,
unfortunately, Crystal's a big Lost fan, and she was the other female host, and unfortunately she couldn't make it tonight. So she would have had a lot of input, but...
Yeah, Bob, Steve is here.
Yeah.
Hi, Steve.
Yeah. I'm on now. Hiya.
Okay, Steve. Steve, this is Mike, and you know Rob and
Michelle. I've
Michelle.
Down with Skype, but I've dialed in with the phone, so...
Great. So here we go. We talked a little bit about... What was that, Rob?
That's Steve. Who's he? Remind me.
And we were just talking, Steve, about Ride Captain Ride and how we played the song yesterday and talked a bit about it. And Mike was telling us
we did,
how not only was it recently played on the TV show Vinyl, but it was also played about 3 minutes of it on another TV show we have over here called Scorpion. And then Mike was also telling us, Mike was also telling us that you and Rob are two of the first people to hear Mike's new music. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the reins over to Rob.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Steve. I feel like I've known you all my life.
Yeah, seems like it, doesn't it? Yeah. So the new stuff sounds really good. You say, when is the album due out?
Next month.
Right.
Hopefully.
And that's called...
Yeah. And it's called
what's
Next
the name
Voyage.
of it again?
Well, it's
right,
the
Next
album
Voyage,
called Next Voyage. By Mike Pinera.
Yeah. Yeah, the feeling I get listening to it, it's got that sort of retro feel, that sort of late 60s, early 70s sort of thing, kind of the Iron Butterfly vibe, really, with that that nice fat fuzzed up guitar sound, which I still love. But I think it's just nicely updated for the present day, really, keeping the spirit of that sound. That's what I love about it.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Obviously, we've been. Michelle was talking about the Ride Captain Ride song, which is really the one thing of yours that's most known. Ironically, even though Blues Image are less known overall than Iron Butterfly, that song seems to have taken on a life of its own.
Yes, it sure does. I'm very grateful to the fans for keeping it alive and it being played all this time.
It's amazing, really, because it's kind of after being a bit of a sleeper song for about 40 years, everybody suddenly seems to have taken it up at once.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
it's almost a little bit like what happened to Journey with Don't Stop Believing, isn't it?
That's right. Well, it was it's one of those songs that I guess a lot of people can relate to the message of it, and you can also superimpose your own message over it. And I've seen blogs and I've seen all kinds of internet sites that have people commenting on what the song is really about, and it's pretty hilarious when you see the full spectrum of what
I can imagine,
they hear in there.
Yeah, but I guess that's really why it's been used on so many different TV shows and films and that, because the words seem to be applicable to so many different situations. So it can it can convey a lot of different moods. Because obviously, like the mood of Lost is a lot different to the mood of like Anchorman, but it was relevant to both.
Absolutely. I'll tell you something that a lot of people do not know, and that is when I wrote the lyrics to the song in the studio, and the song was released, and I believe at this point it was number 3 in the Billboard charts, we got a call from the U.S. Pentagon, from the military there, and they wanted to know how I knew, the Pentagon, how I knew about the secret spy ship called the USS Pueblo. And I had no idea what they were talking about. I've never even heard of the Pueblo, then or now. And it turns out that there was a ship that sailed out of San Francisco Bay, exactly the way my lyrics portray it, and it had close to 73, I think it was maybe 72 or something, but that ship went out to sea, and it was captured by a Korean destroyer and taken in to Korea. They actually captured it and took it hostage. And apparently, when you listen to my lyrics, that 73 men sailed out of the San Francisco Bay, and they sailed off to history, and a lot of other sentences in there, and people heard that, and they had no idea what I had just found out, that it goes in parallel with the USS Pueblo. So if you ever do a Google search and you put Ride Captain Ride and put USS Pueblo right after it, you'll see an amazing story that goes along with my lyrics.
Cool. Yeah, I'll be doing that right after this show, actually. That sounds really interesting. I bet a lot of people who listen to this will do that.
Don't mistake coincidence for fate, which is a big lost quote. It's in Lost, if you know the storyline in Lost, it's all about coincidence and fate, and that kind of fits in with that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That really, it's a little bit like the story of that guy who used to set the Times crossword in the Second World War, and he got paid a visit by the British Secret Service, asking him how he had managed to put all of the code words for the upcoming Allied operation into the crossword that day. It was entirely coincidental, but he was taken in question for spying for a long time. It was complete coincidence.
It's true, and they wanted to know how I knew about that secret spy mission, before it became public knowledge. And I said, man, I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. And it's great when I'm on the road sometimes, and I'll run into some of the crew of the USS Pueblo that come to my concerts, and they're telling me, hey man, we really love that you did that song for us, and you told our story, and et cetera, et cetera. And I said, oh well, it's for everybody really. And one real fascinating thing that happened was the head of radio navigations for the ship, for the USS Pueblo, as they were being captured by the Koreans, he tried to wire or to radio transmit their location and Mayday back to their home base to let the headquarters know that they were being captured, and he couldn't get through. And the reason he couldn't get through is because there was a severe storm out at sea where they were at, and it was blocking the radio transmission from getting to where he was trying to send it to. And so he says, that's why you wrote that line, no one heard them calling. No one came at all because they were too busy watching those raindrops fall. And I said, really? Is that why I wrote that? That was the first time I had ever heard that theory. But, yeah, this was the guy who was trying to send the message out that they were being captured and couldn't get it out because of the raindrops falling. I was really more
incredible.
into the headspace of, it was more about B.J. Thomas, raindrops keep falling on my head, kind of metaphorical. But you just never know where the inspiration comes from and where it goes to.
So, if you're actually really a spy, then your secret's safe with us. Don't worry.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So, I mean, when moving on to when you joined I Am Butterfly, which is where kind of most people know your name from, still probably. Of course, it was the Metamorphosis album that you joined for, wasn't it?
Yes.
Which came after the big one, which was In the Gada da Vida.
Yes, that's right. The band was already headlining arenas and stadiums and touring with groups like The Doors and Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and others. And I came in to the band, that was 1970, and we recorded Metamorphosis with Pinera and Rhino. And that came out, and it got a lot of critical acclaim. A lot of people really liked it, but it did not really have. It wasn't an airplay, radio-friendly kind of album. I wrote, I'd say, 80% of it, and the stuff I was writing was just what I was feeling. I wasn't really trying to get commercial radio airplay. And for instance, one song that I wrote on there called Butterfly Blue is about 14
the long
minutes
one,
long. Yeah, that's the long one. And, it's got a lot of movements in it and very much like that time period, where, you go a mini rock symphony, hopefully, where you hear 3 or 4 different movements in the song. And again, a lot of people don't know that those lyrics are actually represented within the album cover. When you see Metamorphosis with Pinera and Rhino on Atlantic Records, and you open the album cover up to the inside, you'll see different members of the band being portrayed in different scenes. And that was my concept. I came up with that concept of saying, let's have a picture or a portrait for every song title and have it, be relevant to it. So on Butterfly Blue, it turns out that the lyrics overall are the meaning of somebody who is lost, no pun intended, out in the jungle somewhere or, in some unknown place, and he's trying to get out. He's trying to find his way out, and he just doesn't know which way to go. And then this butterfly appears and starts flying around him and kind of like, playing with him and starts to lead him to the trail that will lead him out of that garden that he's in. So there's, a lot of reflection there about Garden of Eden, which was what In the Gada da Vida was about. Yeah. And I mean, for fans that like trivia and like to hear about how certain songs were written and all, I was just sitting there alone in Paris. We were on tour, and I said, it's about time that the Butterfly has a blues, because really we all loved blues music in the band. But to that point, there had only been like psychedelic stuff and kind of, gothic kind of music. So Butterfly Blue was really supposed to be Butterfly Blues. And after I finished the song, I was sitting there in the hotel room. There was a bottle of blue cheese dressing, and I was just inspired by the way that blue is spelled, B-L-E-U, on that. So I said, no, that's what I'll call it Butterfly Blue. And that's what stayed. But by the last verse, you hear the explanation that she never was leaving me. She was guiding me by my efforts to reach her, leading me to be free. And so we're talking about doing, since that is now on my new album, on Next Voyage, with a complete horn section, very orchestral type of sound, still funky and still, psychedelic, retro, whatever you want to call it. We're talking about doing a video, because there's never been a video to Butterfly Blue or to Ride Captain Ride for that matter. And my wife and I were watching some scenes last night about some ships. It's from the upcoming Peter Pan movie, which they're calling Pan. And man, there are some wild ships that are flying and not just sailing on the sea, but it's very very universal theme just from the trailer we saw. I said that's the kind of ship we need, where it's sailing and then it starts to take off. That's the mystery ship. That was the mystery about it. It wasn't really a sailing ship. It was much more than that. So, we learn as we go by, and I'm just very fortunate that music has been so good to me. And after Metamorphosis came out, we went on tour, and our opening band was Led Zeppelin. And
Crikey.
It was great. Yeah, when these kids nowadays that really, worship Led Zeppelin, they find out that Led Zeppelin used to warm up for us, used to be the opening act, they just get, beside themselves. But it was great for me because I had met Jimmy Page in 1966 when he was with the Yardbirds. And we played a gig together, and we became friends then. And I didn't see him again until 1970, and now we're on tour together. He's got Led Zeppelin, and I'm in Iron Butterfly. So we renewed our friendship there, and it's still going to this day. We're still pretty close friends.
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of people forget now just how big Iron Butterfly were back then. Not so much in the UK, but certainly in the US. But they've almost been sort of airbrushed out of history a little bit, but they were a really, really big band at the time.
Yes, a lot of that too, Steve, was some of the things that people missed. I wish I had video of it because there were some very strong moments, some very powerful moments during the 70 and 71 tour with Zeppelin that I'll never forget, that's for sure. And one of them was when we played London and we played the Royal Albert Hall, which, by the way, I mean, I love the UK, just totally love it. I love the music scene. I love the attitude and consciousness of people. And we had a great time that night there at the Albert Hall. Keith Moon came out, God rest his soul, to see us play, and Ringo was there, Ringo Starr. He went up to our drummer, Ron Bushy, and said, I guess you know that I copped a little bit of your drum solo on our song that we have in the Beatles album. Golden slumber still your hand. He says, oh, yeah, I know you did. I didn't know if you did that on purpose or what. He says, oh, yeah, man, I loved your drum solo, so I copped a little bit of it. And he says, well, then you're going to have to take me to dinner, Ringo. And so there were some really good moments during that time period. And so we, Bonzo, as we called John Bonham, came up to me and said, you want to go out and jam after the show? I said, yeah, absolutely. So he took me to some place, I think it was called the Speakeasy. It was a pub.
Yeah.
Walked down into a basement there. And so John Bonham and I went to jam, and there was a band playing. And so John says to the leader of the band, he says, look, that's my mate there. That's Mike Pinera from Iron Butterfly, and you know who I am. How about letting us play a song or two with you? And the guy said, no way, man. This is our moment. This is our time. We're not letting anybody up here. So the club owner came to him and said, either you let the two of them jam with you guys, or you're out of here. You might as well start packing up your gear. So that put the pressure on him. So the guitar player handed me his guitar, and I said, hey, I'm sorry about this, man. I really don't care if we jam or not. But Bonzo jumped out, leaped over the drums there. Now he's on the drums. And we went into it was cosmic, is the only way I could describe it. We used their bass player, and that's it. And then Bonham and we went into like a half hour of nonstop stream of consciousness flow that went from blues to jazz to fusion to, genres of music that hadn't been invented. And it was a great jam, and the people were just going wild. And the guitar player, who was the leader of the band, he freaked out. He saw, how well it was going. So he jumps on stage and says, okay, hand me my guitar. And we're in the middle of playing music. And I said, well, do you mind if I, finish this piece of music we're doing here? Give me 5 minutes to end it properly. He says, no, I want the guitar now. So he grabs the guitar, which is still strapped around my neck, pulls on it to try to get it off me, and the strap broke, and he fell off the stage backwards into the first round of tables there, and drinks were spilling and food was going everywhere, and this guy was very embarrassed and very humiliated to be there on his back. And so that ignited his temper, so he came at me, with fists flailing, and I tell you, Bonzo got, he leaped over the drums because now the other guys in the band were coming. It was a free-for-all, like a John Wayne Western or something, and John Bonham gave the guy a really good punch right in the chest and knocked him across the stage, and so now it's an all-out freak-out, Their band is fighting with Bonzo and I, and Led Zeppelin's road manager, Richard Cole, very nice man. He jumps into it, and I just walked out. I said, man, this is not what I'm playing music for. So as I was leaving, I could see chairs flying out the window and people screaming, and I felt really bad that I was part of the reason for that. Yeah, I'll never forget that. That in fact, John Bonham wasn't alive that much longer after that. And it's considered one of the last jams that he ever did outside of the band.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Metamorphosis thing album. You say that it didn't really sell that well, but maybe not in comparison to In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, which obviously was massive. But the track Easy Rider, Let the Wind Pay the Way, that was actually a minor hit, wasn't it, in the States? That was a reasonably well-known song.
Yes, it was. It was. That one and Stone Believer became quote-unquote hit singles, meaning they entered the top 40 or top 20 or whatever. But, when I wrote Easy Rider, it wasn't supposed to be about the movie Easy Rider, although the movie was out at that time. It was more about letting the wind pay the way, just the freedom of a soul, who rides around in his motorcycle, and that's the way he gets off. That's his way of life. And it really has a few lines in there that are pretty deep, pegs of people line the street, waiting for their weekend treat. And it's all about how some people just live. They just get by during the week, doing what they think they've got to do to survive and earn a living. And then when the weekend comes, oh boy, that's the real them then. And so the song really reaches out to say, hey man, you should feel free and feel good all the time, not just on the weekend. So that took hold, and people liked it a lot. It was a big guitar sound and a big guitar song. Yeah. And the album actually now has sold quite well. It's gone gold, now. Yeah. But when it was released, it was just kind of fledging along there. It didn't really have the distinction that In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida is the first platinum award ever given a rock group. That was the first time a platinum record was issued by the music industry, and because it was selling so big, and it stayed on the charts for over a year, which normally you stay on the charts for 2 weeks, that the record industry said, we have to come up with a new award. Gold is not enough. So they said, well, let's call it platinum then. So that was the first platinum record ever issued.
Well, I mean, a lot of people, like me included, rate Metamorphosis as one of their favourite Iron Butterfly albums. In fact, I would say that overall it's a more consistent album than In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. But it was just that one lengthy song in In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida that really just like captured everybody's imagination, didn't it? And it dragged the album along with it. Which I mean, in a way, that's overshadowed the rest of the band's output, which is a bit unfair because there's so many really great songs. I mean, one of my favourite Iron Butterfly songs, well before your time, off the first album, I think, was the Iron Butterfly theme, the instrumental.
Oh yeah,
I think that's a marvellous track. I don't know if you used to play that live at that time.
That was Danny Weiss on guitar, and it was a different configuration. Doug Engel was there, and Ron Bushy was there. Yeah. But Lee Dorman, the bass player, had yet to join the band. And that's real psychedelic there. I mean, you know, that's,
yeah.
If there ever was a genre called psychedelic, it's definitely the Iron Butterfly theme. And if you close your eyes, you can actually hear the butterfly, you know, just kind of flying all over the place with the guitar technique that's being used there. And so I'm glad you like that. I like it too, and I listen to it now, and I hear a lot of psychedelic music coming out of the UK and out of Europe in general. And man, it sounds like we used to sound like, you know. It's really great stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. There's so much that retro sound now. There's so many bands coming out, even like younger bands, that are taking that sort of sound and running with it for the present day. You know, it's really good to see. There's a band from Iceland called the Vintage Caravan who are fantastic, and they do a lot of that kind of stuff. There's a couple of UK bands as well, a band called Person. They do a lot of that sort of stuff. It's becoming quite popular now, and I think it's great because it's not just a slavish imitation of that kind of thing. It's taking that sort of that big, fat, full sound and the sort of the spirit of that sound and make it into something new, which I think is brilliant.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate you saying that, you know, how much you like the Metamorphosis album, because, you know, we feel the same way. We like it a lot. We don't compare it to anything else, but it's really, it's musically very rich with a lot of different styles that we tried to combine without breaking the continuity. So it's not like listening to the Monkees and then the next song is Hendrix. It's
that's right.
Wide.
It's a bit like that.
I did a lot of jamming with Jimi Hendrix during that period, by the way, in the 70s. Jimmy used to come see us play in Hollywood. Well, I was still with Blues Image then, and we would all go over to his house after the show, and Jim Morrison would be there, and Keith Moon, and a lot of different people, and we'd jam at Jimmy's after the jam that we had on Sunset Strip. And so he and I became pretty good friends, and he did an interview back then with Melody Maker of London with Chris Welch, the writer. I'll never forget it. And he said, you know, Blues Image is one of my favorite bands, and I really look forward to getting home after a tour and going down to where they're playing and jamming with them. So that was very nice.
Yeah. I think it's probably true to say that after you left after that album, the band kind of lost the way a bit after that, and things were never the same. Like they did Sun and Steel and Scorching Beauty after that, which they were a bit weak, I think.
Yes, especially right after Metamorphosis, because we worked really hard on Metamorphosis. We would rehearse every day, and I would do my songwriting in my motorhome. I had an RV, and I would go to each guy's house and park in their driveway for several days at a time so that we could all feel like we were writing it together. But, you know, it really takes a lot of discipline to write a song or continue writing pieces of the song every night. You have to give up a lot of stuff, like going down to Hollywood and hanging out on the Strip and going to the Whiskey A Go-Go and all that. And so we took our time with that. And by the time we got in the studio, I already had the tracks in the demo form on my 4-track TAC recorder. And, you know, I had a drum machine playing the drums, and then I would play the bass and the guitar parts and then sing it. So I would show it to the band, and it was pretty much sounding like a finished piece, and everybody would vote on what they wanted to record and everything like that. So we had that sound, the sound of a band that's really a band, not just a recording project or you know, a bunch of guys that got together and said, well, why don't we sound like this, because this is really in right now. And of course, that's a waste of time, because by the time you record what you think is the happening music of that month, the flavor of the month, the music industry has gone on to something else. So managers would walk in and go, hey, these guys sound just like blah, 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 so we think you should sign them. And then the record label would say, well, we don't want that. We already have that. And that happened with Lee Dorman, the bass player, and I. We discovered a band called Black Oak, Arkansas. And so we found them playing somewhere and said, you want to record with us? And we took them into rehearsals for a long time, and then we recorded the album. And so it got signed to Atlantic and became a very big album. But I had to keep steering them away from trying to sound like the Stones or like somebody, like the people that they really admired. I tried to give them their own sound, which they definitely do have. If you listen to that first Black Oak, Arkansas album, it's pretty unique. Mm. So that was that was one of the challenges of that era, was to try to come up with a sound and a style that couldn't be, measured to any other band that sounded like that. Sort of like when Zeppelin came out. They were playing blues and stuff, but the way they did it and the arrangements that Jimmy Page would put, where it would go right from a slow 2/4 blues beat, and then all of a sudden go into like double time, And man, that was just so exciting. There are a few bands of that time period that I really admire, still do, and I'm still friends with them. And but a lot of the bands that were around then, a lot of the musicians kind of slacked off, because the whole secret of being that original and spontaneous was not to have too many obligations and responsibilities in your head. And, you're just free. You wake up, you start writing, and then you go to sleep that night, and, and then write some more the next day. But a lot of those guys that wrote some brilliant songs, nowadays they have so many, mortgage on their house, or they've got companies that they formed with business people, and they're looking after their companies, and there's college alimony payments, all this stuff, and they don't really have that focus like they had back then.
No.
And plus, there's a certain love to it that you have to really have for it to be something special. And so I'll go, we'll be on tour with some of the bands of that period, and then they'll say, hey, let us play something new for you. And then when they play it, sometimes it's a bit disappointing. It sounds like anything else that you might hear. But there sure were some great songs back then, huh, Steve?
There certainly were. It's funny, we were just talking on the when we were on the call yesterday, when the one you didn't make it on for it, and we were kind of talking about Iron Butterfly a bit, and Rob was saying that he's actually never really got around to listening to Iron Butterfly, but the reason for it is he read a Wikipedia entry and was put off by it because it described him as heavy metal. Now, nothing could be further from the truth, could it?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's like it's psychedelic proto-prog rock, really. I think so. I think he's going to go off and discover some Iron Butterfly now, having been misled by that.
Yeah, the thing with heavy metal, as I was saying last night, the thing with heavy metal and me, I'm always waiting for that prog flourish. You know what I mean? That prog rock flourish, and it never happens with heavy metal. Yeah. And I'm just continually waiting for it, and it never occurs. So that kind of puts me off metal.
I think that's what misleads people a little bit who haven't heard the band is the fact that the first album was called Heavy, and also the Iron in the Iron Butterfly kind of gives people maybe the impression that it's going to be, like a Blue Cheer was at the time, that kind of thing, but really it's not at all.
People think of Iron Maiden, don't they? When you say Iron Butterfly, people automatically think Iron Maiden.
People who don't know them, yeah. But no, you would love Iron Butterfly, Rob.
Yeah, the song you mentioned, Steve, the Iron Butterfly theme, can certainly be termed as heavy rock, although you're more correct in saying prog rock. But if you listen to Yes or Genesis and you say, well, that's prog rock there, and when you hear Iron Butterfly theme, you go, wait a minute, that's very spooky, dark, heavy metal, with those guitars, going, the sounds that the band was making. And Doug Engel...
Heavy psychedelic rock, really.
That's really it. And the whole concept of calling the band Iron Butterfly was because the music that was being written for the band was touch classical, with Doug playing these classical scales and stuff, and a bit gothic. And then that was the iron part. That was the butterfly part, the light classical, whimsical kind of sound. But then the heavy stuff would come in, like Unconscious Power. Rob, you should listen to that off the first album, the heavy album. Between Iron Butterfly Theme and Unconscious Power, you'll hear some heavy, I wouldn't call it metal, because that reminds me of like what you said, people like Blue Cheer and stuff like that were going out of their way to use a lot of fuzz tone and stuff, whereas this was not heavy metal. But then Steppenwolf came up and said, well, we were the first band to use the term heavy metal. You know, on Born to Be Wild, there's a line that says heavy metal thunder. But the Butterfly was really the first band to incorporate the word heavy to be the title of the album.
That's right.
Yeah.
And of course, another thing that we didn't mention when you were talking about the Butterfly Blue piece is that whether it's a good thing or not, but it was one of the first instances of using the talk box, wasn't it?
Yes, I was the co-inventor of the talk box.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether the talk box is a really good thing, but it was one of the first to do it.
Yeah, it was. We were in the studio recording when this young man came in and said, "I've got an invention here I'd like you to try." And it was a bag. It looked like a wine bag, you know, big, inflated, and he hung it around his shoulder, and then he plugged the guitar into it, and he started moving his lips as he played the notes, and it really sounded like it was talking. And so he says, here, Mike, I'd like to give this to you as a gift, and if you can recommend anything that I can do to make it sound better, please do. And I worked with it on the album. It's pretty much featured on Butterfly Blue. And I found some things that I thought could enhance the sound. And so he worked on that and added my contributions to it. And so, you know, he said, hey, as far as I'm concerned, you're the co-inventor. And then a big electronics firm, musical instrument company called Custom Electronics, they had big amplifiers and stuff like that. They came in and bought the rights to it. So what was originally called the Magic Bag became the Guitar Talk Box.
Yeah. You know, and then obviously a few years later, Peter Frampton and Joe Walsh used it, and that became massive, but people don't realise that you actually pioneered that.
Yeah.
It's another cool story, really.
Well, you know, a really funny story was Jeff Beck walked in on one of my rehearsals with Carmine Apiece. We were trying to spruce Cactus up from just being a boogie band to being a serious band. And Jeff Beck walked in and said to Carmine Apiece and to Tim Bogert, the bass player, hey, man, I want you guys to do a band with me. We're going to call it Beck, Bogart, and Appice, BBA, which they did form the band, and they did some recording. But during that rehearsal, he saw my Magic Bag and said, what does that do, Mike? And I said, oh, watch. And I started, you know, talking and making it come through with some phrases and stuff. He says, oh, that is, could I just borrow that for a couple of weeks? I really would love to try that at home. And I said, sure, Jeff, but make sure you bring it back in a couple of weeks because we're going on tour, and it's the only one I have. And so I never got it back. You know, I ran into him and I said, Jeff, where's my Magic Bag? Where's my talk box? And he says, oh, Mike, I did so many improvements to it. I've done, you know, I've added so much to it. I couldn't possibly give it back now with everything that I've added to it. And I said, okay, all right, no problem. You go ahead and take it. And then after Jeff had it, then Peter Frampton and, you know, the others that you mentioned came through with it. And a lot of people don't know that the actual first use was on the Metamorphosis album on Butterfly Blue.
Yep. And also, another thing that people might not realise about you is that you were Alice Cooper's guitarist for a couple of years in the early 80s.
That's right, yeah. 1980 through 82. I played lead guitar with Alice, and we did 2 albums, and we did 2 world tours.
Special Forces, one of them.
Yeah. Alice called the band Special Forces. Yeah, there's some heavy stuff in.
I think I probably saw you on stage on that time because I saw Alice Cooper at the Hammersmith Odeon on the Special Forces tour, And I think you were probably in the band at the time.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be 82, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the Hammersmith Odeum, I remember it quite well. And
yep.
we had combat fatigues on, right? You know, like the
that's
kind
right. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Well, I tell you,
throwing daggers into the stage, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in the front row for that.
Oh well, hey, Alice had some wild ideas when we were cutting a 1-hour TV show in France for the album, using the songs from the album. They let Alice and the band pretty much direct and create the show itself, and so Alice would come up with different locations and ideas and concepts for the songs, and a lot of it was really wild. You could it's for sale on the web. It's called Alice Cooper in Paris. Alice in Paris with Special Forces.
Right.
And there's some pre-recordings too, of course, some pre-videos of us doing the album and the videos. But Alice would come up with things like abandoned subway stations, underground subway stations that look like something from Mad Max. And but the funniest one I think he came up with was we went to Notre Dame and we set up on the steps of the cathedral, and it was a full moon, and the smoke machines came on and the strobe lights and all this, and we're there in our combat fatigues, you know, playing a song from one of Alice's albums called "You Can Go to Hell." And, you know, when Alice told me he was going to do that, I said, oh, man, I think you're barking up the wrong tree. You know, to stand in front of Notre Dame and sing "You Can Go to Hell." He says, oh, no, that's not half of it. The other half of it is I want the band to dress up as nuns, put on nuns' outfits. And we'll put extra black under the eyes, like, you know, some zombie nuns or something. And then we'll go and stand in front of the full moon and do "You Can Go to Hell." And his reasoning was, if you really listen to the lyrics, he's actually giving out a warning. He's saying, you know, if you're bad, if you're brash and violence on the stage and all that stuff, you can go to hell. So the priest let it go by, and that was one of the weirdest music videos I've ever been in. But we had a lot of fun.
Sounds like it, yeah. Well, sorry, yeah, go on.
I'm wondering if you or Rob, do you remember a drummer by the name of Mitch Mitchell?
Oh, yeah, from, Hendrix's drummer, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because Mitch and I had a band, little-known band, called Ramatam, which came out after I left the Butterfly. And Mitch and I, put together the songs and most of them and the arrangements and stuff. We had a big house in New York, Long Island, big estate, and my wife, Valerie, who at that time was my fiancée, she came up and lived with me, and then Mitch had his wife there and his daughter. So the five of us in this gigantic mansion that had a ballroom in it with a stage. And so we worked it up and came up with some wild songs and did this album called Ramatam. And Mitch had found this young lady who was playing guitar. Her name was April Lawton. And she played very much like Hendrix and also some jazz overtones. But if you get a chance, you know, take a listen to Ramatam album with Mitch and I and April Lawton.
Yeah,
it's pretty far out.
Yeah, that's one that I've never caught up with. I'll have a look for that. Cool.
Oh,
well, I think it's really great now that with the new stuff you're putting out. I mean, after quite a while in the wilderness, really, it seems that you're coming back and trying to you sort of get your name out there again a bit more, which is a cool thing.
Yeah, it's really kind of funny because what happened in 1988, after I had left Alice's band, I'd been out of Alice's band for a few years, and I was working on a solo album, which I did complete, and it's called In the Garden of Eden, and it was a spoof saying this is what was trying to be said when our keyboard player Doug Engel wrote Inagata Davida. Yeah, he was trying to say In the Garden of Eden. So this album is sort of a spoof on that. And I was working on my solo career then, and what happened was I formed a band called the Classic Rock All-Stars. And that band went on for 20 years, from 1992 to 2012. And let's see, Pete Rivera, the lead singer and drummer from Rare Earth, and Jerry Corbetta from Sugarloaf, Green-Eyed Lady and all that stuff, and really great bass player from Cannibal and the Headhunters, and myself. And we would go on stage together and play each other's well-known hit songs all in one set. Yeah. And that really took off here in the States. We didn't get to Europe much, but here we did a lot of fairs and festivals as the Classic Rock All-Stars. So I got a little complacent because we're playing the huge stadiums and, we're being treated royally. And I just said, hey, it's just like the old days here. So I didn't really push too hard to get any new product out. And then the band broke up in 2012. And I realized where I was. I said, God, I haven't done a new album since Garden of Eden. I better get busy here. So there's a few pieces. One is called Mike Pinera Forever. It's a solo album. And another one called Mike Pinera Isla, I-S-L-A, that came out.
Yeah, they were late 70s, weren't they? Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, that was the 70s. And so I stopped right after that and, did the Garden of Eden and started producing the concerts myself because I didn't, like the way a lot of these concerts were being produced. So it got me busy, and I felt like I was really accomplishing a lot. But as far as being a relevant recording artist, I lost track of that. So this album, Next Voyage,
it's important
Next
to
Voyage
get you back
picked
to that.
up where that left off.
Yeah, well, let's hope it's successful. By the sound of what you've done so far, it certainly seems to be. So, like I said to you in that email, I mean, I'm very involved with the Classic Rock Society over here in the UK, which and that's exactly what we do: try and publicise and get a new audience for that sort of music. This classic rock in all its forms, really, and that's it. We'd love to get behind that and support it, and we'll. I'll certainly get a review of that in the mag, and we can maybe set up an interview feature with you. That'd be good.
Oh, well, thank you. Really appreciate that.
So we'll see about that. Yeah. So I think we can probably.
Are you the features editor on that? Is that your position?
I'm the features editor in the magazine. Yeah. So we've got a couple of writers who are based in the States, so one of them could cover a piece with you.
Oh, that is great. Well, in that case, we might be able to come over and do some touring again. And play the new album and play some of the stuff from all the different bands I was in. And
well, if we promote gigs as well, so we have a few smaller venues that we use. So maybe we could do something with that if you do get over.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, I think Michelle wants to kind of wrap this up by playing "Ride Captain Ride" again for.
By the way,
so basically anybody that's listening will be able to hear all those lyrics.
Great.
About the spy ship.
What was that about? Mike was saying about the motorhome earlier on.
Sorry, what was that?
You can hear me. Yeah, I was just a bit about because Mike was talking about the motorhome earlier on the RV story.
Oh yeah.
It just made me think. I don't know if you know I don't know if you know Breaking Bad, Mike, the TV series Breaking Bad. Yeah, I do. And they've got RV motorhome in that, and he was just making me think if Walter White, the character in that, had probably gone aside and wanted to make a bit of music, he would have probably called the album Metamorphosis.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
I think my humor's a bit warped for you, probably.
Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah.
There's a movie out starring Will Ferrell called Anchorman, and it's a movie about a television news anchorman, and in that movie there's several subplots, like some gangsters steal his dog and throw him over the bridge because they're jealous of Will Ferrell being the number one anchor, and then his sweetheart leaves him, and just a lot of different subplots that have a lot of irony to it. Well, at the very end of the movie, in the last scene, they play Ride Captain Ride, and as they're playing the song, all the problems and all the low points of the story all come together, and they're all resolved by the time you hear Ride, Captain, Ride finish. So I thought that was the most beautiful use of the song I've heard from the different movies and TV shows and whatnot, was that Ride, Captain, Ride resolved all the issues. The guy's dog comes back to him, all wet, didn't die. The girlfriend comes back to him. He's still the number one anchor on TV. And if you get a chance, I recommend that movie very highly. Will Ferrell in Anchorman.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yes,
it's a great
I've
film.
seen that movie. Yeah, it's a good movie and takes place in San Diego, where I'm at.
Yeah, there's a lot of great songs in that, to the point that Will Ferrell published an album of the songs from the movie, and he gives a little intro to each song. He talks a little bit, and so he talked about Blues Image and about Ride Captain and what Ride Captain Ride is all about. And it's funny. It's really funny to hear that album, the songs from Anchorman. But it's wonderful, man. It's really great. I'm so glad that you all are so into music. You're definitely serious, and that's great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Music is great.
I'll hand it over to you, Michelle, to wrap things up now, I think.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, thank you again, Mike Pinera, for joining us, and thank you, Rob, again, for being the producer and organizer, and Steve for your great skills and knowledge. And thanks so much for everybody for listening. We're going to play this out by playing Ride.
We want to do a bit of a close up after the song, so
okay.
We can hang on to Steve, me, and Michelle.
Okay. So I guess we'll play Mike out with playing Ride, Captain, Ride, and then we'll close up for a few minutes right after we play the song. Thank you again, Mike, for being here.
Talking to you guys. Thank you for inviting me.
73 men sailed up from the San Francisco Bay, rolled off of their ship, and here's what they had to say. We're calling every
Okay.
That was well worth the wait.
That was superb, wasn't it? Really interesting, that. He's got some great stories.
People he was involved with that, and I had no idea. I mean, I put legendary on my. Excuse the voice. I was going to start myself up in the hour before, and then I realised it was 6 o'clock. So my head is totally not there.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm glad we all got in on the right time.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to be chasing up some...
I'm on the inbox thread, and Michelle, I'm saying, "Oh, tell him to come back in an hour." And she's at 6 o'clock. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you're going to be chasing up some Iron Butterfly now, Rob, aren't you?
I'll give it a listen. I always do give these things a listen. I'll give it a listen, and I think I was totally lost in him, that show. Don't know if you got it.
You did what?
No, it went over my head a bit.
No, it was. If you watch Breaking Bad,
I've never watched it, you see.
Well, there's a motorhome involved, and his parts have been in the driveway, and it just made me think if Walter White, the main character in that, the main protagonist in that, it would go off and make an album with Jackie, they would call it Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis. I didn't hear you say the meth part. Okay. I thought you said metamorphosis. I think that's what he heard too.
Yeah, I did as well. So that didn't come over. But
that's cute.
Anyway, no, that was great because Mike was coming out with stuff all the time that I didn't know about, so it gave me a lot to work with and talk about with him. It's really good.
To work with, I didn't have a clue.
Incredible.
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
Alice Cooper. I was going to say Alice Cooper. You should have got him to ask him if he'd do the Halloween special.
Yeah.
But I saw him at Hammersmith on that Alice Cooper tour in 1982. I'd forgotten who was without Alice Cooper. It just suddenly came to my mind, and it was those years. So I thought, oh, crikey, that was Mike up there.
Wow, that's exciting.
Well, I'll tell you what the most scary proposition about the Halloween special for me is you not hosting on it.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
I think we've got Dennis Cave I phoned him last night, and he said he'll do it for the Christmas. In fact, he said he could get Lee, what's his name, from the Nice, so we could possibly have 2 Nice members, and we could have Greg Lake.
Sounds
it's like he was saying. At the moment, I don't think Greg will be up for doing anything at the moment. He's probably getting inundated with stuff. But if you think about it, it's the best time. It's best time to do it. It'll be a more reflective. And he didn't keep doing Christmas albums.
Yeah. So what's this? Has this gone out live today, or is this just recorded?
Yes, it's going out live.
It's going out live, right? Well, probably best that you take discussion about what's going to happen in future ones offline.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah. But
we'll talk more about this later, Rob.
Yeah, no, just making clear to anyone listening what we're going to do in the future and what's upcoming. You know me, I've got
great things planned. Yes,
I'll talk about it anyway.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think we didn't have Crystal on this one, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, it just happened. We all planned to be here.
Especially when we talk about the nun, she would absolutely come in on that one.
Yeah.
I think that it was probably good that we got Mike on his own because he had so much to talk about. We wouldn't have had as much time yesterday, so I think it was good that we gave him a whole slot to himself.
I think it worked out really well. And I'm so glad you guys were able to come back and we were able to reschedule with Mike so quickly and get this as a standalone podcast on its own because it stands on its own, absolutely.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
I want to keep saying, when he kept talking about this shit, I wanted to keep saying, not Penny's boat.
Oh. But that's amazing about the history of the song.
I've stopped myself from saying it.
It's really interesting, that, yeah. Yeah, like I said, it was like that story about the guy with the crossword. It was all coincidence.
Everything he was saying, it absolutely fitted in with Lost. I mean, he was talking about, absolutely coincidence. He was talking about the storm. Isn't like around the island, before you get to the island, isn't there a storm? Michelle?
Well, there's a storm when they're going from the island back to the freighter.
Yeah, there isn't there, and it's kind of where the time warp kind of thing is involved or something, and it's this storm that they have to pass through to get back to get back to proper life.
To the freighter, yeah. That's true.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay, well,
I better wrap this up because I'm on the phone here, so it's all costing me.
Okay, well, thanks again. I'm sorry you had problems with the Skype button, but he's calling on the regular phone.
You're on your normal phone, you say?
Yes. So
yeah,
anyway,
I put you on that thing you gave me. I put you on that 8.1, whatever it is.
Yeah, I am. So that's why it's not costing massive amounts, but so it costs, but it's affordable.
That's right.
It's only about over £1, isn't it? Let's face it.
Yeah, that's right. So it's not a massive amount. No, that's great. Yep.
Okay, well, thanks, guys, for being here. Sorry that we missed Crystal. And we're going to go ahead and end the show. Thanks so much, guys, for being here. And we're going to go ahead and say goodbye for now. But please return to our spot here on Blog Talk Radio and look for future episodes.
Okay.